let's first, because the last time you were here, you hadn't started Grind yet.
I think, yeah, we had just like come up with the idea, but we hadn't done any branding. We'd done like nothing else yet. And since then, we've tried a mobile coffee unit out of Land Cruiser, and then we did a sports kind of training facility.
Can you turn that mic? Yeah, just rotate it a bit toward. Yeah, that's perfect.
We did a high performance center for a bit. Then we opened up a little coffee shop in that, and then we moved into a bike shop. So we've been trying a bunch of things. The bike shop worked very well for a year, and then in Jan we went mobile with a coffee trailer, and that's the coffee side of the business has been going really well.
Nice.
And yeah, the coffee, we as a coach and an athlete, we were finishing all these sessions at a different coffee shop day in, day out. So we thought, well, just do our own coffee shop. And yeah, so the coaching is the other side of the business, and that's flourishing. And we've got a lot of group sessions now. We've got this big community of people. Some Wednesday mornings, we've got 100 people running around a school field, just summer, because they can and because they want to.
What school is that near Old Eds?
So that we were at Old Eds for a bit last year, but this is at Pridwin in Birdhaven.
Yeah.
So there are a few little coffee shops around there as well. So my trailer's at Kingsmead College, and so that's just up the road. But during school term, kids getting dropped off at 7 it's packed there. So I actually send everyone from track to get Bird, and yeah, everyone just enjoys kind of the socializing aspects of it. I think that's why different sports like High Rocks is blowing up, because suddenly you're finding people that are interested in the same shit as you.
Yeah, because I think as a society, as humans, we crave that, collectiveness essentially. And I mean, bro, if you look at the atrocities that have been done in this world, it's because it's groupthink, and people are just looking for some form of acceptance.
Yeah.
That's obviously the negative side, but then the positive side, to be able to do your track session, do your training session, do whatever, and then be able to then spend more time with those people, share a coffee with them. That's why it's popular like that, because people want to be able to speak with and share with like-minded people.
I think with bad and good, we're so tribal.
Yeah.
So like humans are so tribal, so they look for, okay, who's got something in common with me? And then, okay, it's us versus them. And so that's why the different clubs in all the endurance sports are so kind of competitive with one another. It's because they're similar, but they do something slightly different, and they do something slightly different. So they're almost against each other.
Yeah. What would you say then that Grind does differently that separates you and differentiates you from, your peaks and those kind of guys?
So I've been at 2 of the biggest tri clubs, both Joburg based, and I didn't like the animosity towards other clubs. So for example, you've got a guy who's moved from a previous tri club, and they come to your club for the morning, and they're wearing one of their old shirts. Like there was a you can't wear that here kind of sort of attitude towards them, where I took the approach of, one, you don't have to pay to come to our track session. Just come, because I thought that was such a barrier to entry, that you must pay an amount for something you're unsure of. I see a lot of people come 1 week and then they skip it for 2 or 3 weeks because it's an interval session, so it's hard. But then once they come back, once they're a returning sort of person, then they stick, and so they dig it. So the barrier to entry was just charging people to come. So I said, well, it's free, because the idea was to get everyone to my coffee shop afterwards. So the more people I'm offering something nice, just how to run fast, I'm just offering that service to them and hoping that they buy a coffee, and a lot of them do. And because they stick around for weeks and weeks, then I've got a returning customer. And what the group actually helps with is the coaching as well, because you're advertising yourself as a skilled person that can help people with their goals. So I would say our differentiator is when we started the group, we really focused on that word community, which is now like it's popular amongst all the brands. Now you've got the Burn community, and you've got even Plato's using the word community to advertise to runners that start and finish at their shops.
These buzzwords do tend to pop up, and then people hop on the bandwagon.
Yeah, so now I'm trying to think of a different word to community. Like maybe we can try and shift.
Collective. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, they're collective. But I mean, even that is
used a lot.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think just our differentiator is anyone's welcome. So now, obviously, everyone's going to say, oh, well, of course, everyone's welcome. But I've said to people, you can continue to come to my track session, whether you're part of a different club, have a different coach. You can still come to my track session. And then Thursday, I've got a coffee ride. We're just on the road. It's free, and then the coffee run on a Friday is from our trailer, but it's just on the road. So it's difficult to charge someone just to run behind you, So yeah, I would rather provide them with an actual product or an actual service rather than like charge someone for just being around me. I think that's
because you're getting people through the doors, and then obviously they might enjoy the community of it or the collective of it. They might see how you work with the paying people that you are coaching. And then they're like, okay, well, I've come 3 different Thursdays. I actually really like these rides.
Yeah.
I've seen the improvement of certain people, and that guy was so much fitter this week. Maybe this is now the coaching team that I need.
Yeah. And then I also call out people that have done things. So like on a Wednesday morning, tomorrow morning, I'll kind of congratulate anyone who did something on the weekend. A couple of weeks ago was Oceans. Before that was Ironman. And it just identifies to the other group, oh, there's someone here training for Ironman. Maybe I can chat to him about his long rides and see if I can join them. And I think that, I guess, the community aspect of it is you just make friends, and then you're making friends to train with and to maybe just have a friend, you don't necessarily have to train with everyone that comes to the run, but I do like the run clubs popping up that have kind of created this greater this ability to socialize and meet new people. I like that. The old traditional running clubs, especially in Joburg, they're big established clubs with a clubhouse and fields, but it's that barrier to entry. Well, sign up for the year. There you go. Now you're committed for a whole year.
And it's not really relationship based.
No.
It doesn't feel relationship based. And even though there are more running clubs popping up, people might think, okay, flip, there's so many, maybe we should pivot, maybe we should do something different. I think in anything, if there's more competition, that means that there's clearly a market that's looking for something. So you mustn't be deterred by the fact that, now there's more competition, whereas that just shows that there's more interest.
Yeah, it's just like confirming the idea.
Got a good business model.
Yeah, it's a good business model. I mean, bench warmers on a Wednesday afternoon, I don't know if you've ever gone to that. So it's at 5:30, you have a few hundred people like running up Jan Smuts in peak traffic just for a 5K because they get a free beer afterwards. I think it's a free beer, don't quote me. But I think, and that's their business model to advertise Jack Black beer.
Yeah, okay.
And now you've got 300 people in your bar who are likely going to stay for another drink and who are all meeting people and are now raving about bench warmers to other people,
And then the more people come, bro, that blue cycling kit is so nice of yours.
I'm glad you like it.
I like it. I like it so much. When I'm riding in the cradle and I see it, it pops out the most out of any other team's kit.
Shot. We just went with simple, just the blue. So it matches our coffee cups. So it's also kind of why we went with the blue is it's just different. So for the coffee, I haven't seen many. I have now. Like blue coffee, it doesn't really scream coffee, but that cup, it stands out, especially at Kingsmead now. I see lots of people just leaving blue cups around. It's quite cool.
Yeah.
And on the cycling kits, I think just simple works.
It's eye-catching. It's not too much detail or whatever. See the blue, see the grind.
Just
you know exactly, who it is. Other teams' kits. I mean, I'm not affiliated with anyone, so I can say what I want. But
to be honest, I'll say what I want as well.
Yeah, other teams' kit is nice, and maybe having the name of it is what is cool about it, and wearing that kit. But I mean, all you need to do is pay, and you can have it. Yeah. But that's what also one thing about these clubs is people are so proud to wear their team's kit.
Yeah.
And if you can have, I mean, Burnt's done it really well, where people, because of the price point and they've marketed it very well, people want to show other people, and Burnt's, audience is marketing it for them. Obviously they do their own, but the people that are paying Burnt are then helping Burnt because they're so proud to be wearing it.
Yeah, then got the nail on the head there. It's like a little ecosystem of selling itself.
Yeah. And I think that's similar to what your kit does when people are riding out there, is because people see the kit, they see the good cyclist that may be wearing the kit, and then it makes people want to then join your team and then want to have the kit.
The only thing I've struggled with is getting across to people that you don't need to be a part of the cycling club, or you don't have to be coached or to wear the kit.
Just you can buy it and you can wear it.
So I have seen people that I have no idea who they are in the grind kits, and that's pretty cool. And I can't imagine what the owners of Burn think. Like just walking on the Cape Town promenade.
Yeah.
They must love it.
And I mean, I was in December last year, I was in Eastern Cape, which I think is our lowest income province in the world, in South Africa. But I saw even there people in Burnt, in Little Beacon Bay Virgin Active, and you see people wearing Burnt. So I think when you start to reach those areas where there's little money and people are willing to spend their little money on your brand, it shows that you're obviously creating something that's really special.
Yeah. And I think they nailed it with their run club as well, where it's just a Saturday 5K run. It's entry-level sort of distances, and it's also like not too hectic that you're going to be too sweaty afterwards. So you still look good, you still
take
feel
your
good.
burnt photos.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then that makes me think, because of the popularity of running clubs, because of how most of these running clubs, the newer ones at least, are more tailored towards your beginners, to the people that want to still look good and take a photo of the coffee shop that they're at afterwards. How have you navigated that to still obviously adhere to, I'm assuming, which is your main goal, is to help people perform at top levels? How have you navigated that space? Obviously, everyone's welcome to come and train, but how have you worked that around the business model?
So I think it's focused more on making sure everyone's having a good time. And the high performance stuff is very tailored towards kind of the individuals that I coach, because even the people that I coach, they've all got different goals and whatever, but I only have a handful that are constantly looking for a PB, that are like, they're going to train whether they're sick or not. They're going to just go, a little bit overboard. And I focus on those guys for that, like high performance. But other than that, I want to make sure that people who work a day job, who have kids, who have limited time, are able to still do crazy events. And I think if I'm ticking that box, I'm pretty happy.
Because that's the bigger market as well.
That's it. So in the beginning, we sponsored a bunch of really high-level athletes, high-level amateur athletes, and then young elites. And we sponsored a bunch of them, and it put us in a market of you need to be elite to join here. And I'll be honest, it's really cool being in a line of 8 blue jerseys on time trial bikes, like taking segments in the cradle. It's really cool to be a part of that. But it's such a small market. And the people that you're sponsoring or putting in blue are also not necessarily the people buying anything. And it's not their fault. It's just everything is geared towards performance. So they're very, I don't want to say selfish, but they're very individual focused.
But so to always get PBs, you kind of have to be selfish.
Absolutely. Like no one else can count.
Yeah.
You gotta count. And so that market was just far too small. So the market that I think better connect with, because I'm not a pro athlete, but I connect with wanting to help people. And I've coached sports teams as like first sort of jobs, and I've played club every sport. And I really enjoy kind of passing on some knowledge and experience to better someone else's kind of ability at doing the sport, not have to make the same mistakes, that sort of thing. So I think coaching comes quite naturally to me. And that market is big for people who just want to achieve things, whether it's a 5K or an Ironman or comrades or whatever.
And it's actually ridiculous how popular endurance sports is becoming. Obviously, full Ironman and those things are still obviously getting more popular, but your half marathons, I think, compared to 5 years ago, there are way more people now wanting to run. And it's also, a lot of people are now at least aware of the fact that anyone can go and do a half marathon. You don't have to train for months and months and months. Like, just if you can run a 10K, you can push through a 21K. Like, it's not the most difficult thing ever, and you should.
Yeah, you should go try it.
And that's what's nice to see, is that because of social media, because of people's friends and sharing and all of these things, other than run clubs, people are seeing that the barrier to entry to being able to do endurance type events isn't actually that high, unless obviously cycling, when the cost of things come in. But with running, you get a decent pair of shoes and you get a little bit of mental fortitude, and you can do a 21. Anyone can do a 21 without any training, actually.
Yeah. I think the biggest barrier to entry is just that belief. Like, they just haven't kind of opened their eye up to it. So many people come to track and they are thinking of doing their first 10K, and that's very exciting. But they're like, no, I can't do a 21 or a marathon. That's not for me. And then give them a month at track and they're signing up for a 21K because they're running with people that they're the same speed as, that do marathons, that do comrades. It's just that mental, that's the real barrier. Yeah. And, I think you just have to experience it. You have to kind of dive in to enjoy endurance sports, especially. I wouldn't even class Ironman and comrades as like endurance sport, because that's like extreme.
Yeah.
Like, that's becoming popular. Like you say, those 21Ks, the more people who are doing 21Ks, think about how the marathons will then grow as well, because those are also doable.
Yeah.
It's not an impossible thing to run 42K.
I mean, if you wanted to do a 21 every weekend in Joburg, you probably could find events.
Yeah. I think Saturdays are Pretoria 21s generally, and Joburg are the Sundays. So
you could be doing 2.
You could do 2, man.
Yeah. And you obviously, you mentioned you're not a professional athlete. And how has your training been affected or changed through trying to grow the business?
Sure.
Has there been positives and negatives to it?
Yeah, totally. So I've just got over, I say just got over an injury because I think almost to the day was surgery on my knee where I dislocated it
last year.
Yeah. I went down, I did the half Ironman while my other mates did the full, and finished up, was supporting, wasn't even playing the full yet. And I think I was one beer deep. And I rolled my ankle and dislocated my knee. But like full on kneecap on the side. And my mate, who was 2 gazebos down, who's a chiro, ran over, dived on me, shoved my cap in my mouth, and he just said, bite. And he just straightened the leg. Kneecap popped over. But yeah, long story short, that set me back quite a bit. But my brother Dev, he put me on a gym program. I was on crutches, single leg pressing in the gym, and yeah, the strength and gym work got me back into it. So that negative kind of showed me a world of it's better to be stronger. And I think I've proven that now, because I think my running is back up to where it was, and with minimum mileage compared to in years gone by. Like 2 weeks ago, I did a 100K race, and the biggest week of running I've done is just over 60Ks for the last, call it 6 months.
Explain to me that 100K, because did you physically run the 100?
Physically, yeah.
Okay, so what was the event? Because I saw it on Instagram, I was quite curious.
The event was a backyard ultra.
Okay.
Backyard ultra is a 6.7K.
Was that the one? Where was it? Poch, no?
Yeah, it was in Poch. Yeah, it was nice. It was a cool venue. At night, it was pitch black. So the stars were out. It was really cool.
Because I was training for the one in Van Galen's last year. And then I injured my back. So, okay, so it was the same thing.
Yeah, same thing. I think it's a slightly different business that owns the Poch one versus the Backyard Ultra that's global.
Yes.
That one in Van Galen's, how far were you aiming to go before you injured yourself?
I just wanted to do 24 hours. I wasn't really going on distance. I was just going on hours.
That would have hit exactly 100 miles.
Yeah. So that's what my goal was, 24 hours, because at the time I wanted to prep for a miler, a trail run. So I was like, okay, I've never run through the night, that kind of stuff. I've never run more than 11 hours straight. So let's do this backyard ultra and just go for 24 hours, because it's easier to run in the dark and all that stuff in a backyard ultra setting. So how was that experience for you?
That was cool. I won't lie, I trained for the nighttime. So I would start doing a long run at 8 p.m. On a Thursday. And so I just kind of try to throw my system into uncomfortable, unfamiliar territory. The rowing, I've done a lot of rowing just to give my legs a break, but also I'm cardiovascular training. And I decided one day, I was like, let's row for 2 hours, just straight 2 hours. Every 15 minutes I had a sip of juice, and I enjoyed it. And I don't know if it's because we're all kind of
crazy
masochists. Yeah, I think we are a bit nuts, but it was cool. And I thought I leveraged that and some other sorts of sessions that are just difficult. Lots of sauna and heat prep, whether it was going to be hot or not, and it was hot during the day.
Because the one I was going to do is in winter, so I was wondering that would probably be the perfect time of year actually to have done it now.
But that's what I think also makes it challenging, is you've got to get through. Okay, you've dehydrated and sweated a lot during the day, and now the sun goes down and it just becomes icy all of a sudden. So now you're trying to warm up.
Yeah, because this time of year it's hot during the day and then really still cold at night.
Yeah, and I mean it was very exposed. Luckily there wasn't any rain. But if it had been a week earlier, we would have been in like torrential rain, and that would have added another layer on, which would be cool. But I know a lot more people would have dropped out.
Yeah.
But those events are rad. Someone's longest run prior to that race was 8 kilometers.
Yeah.
They did 2 laps and they beat their PB distance by like 5Ks.
Nice.
And so that's really cool.
And that's because of the community around it.
Yeah.
And obviously the nature of the event, maybe having a bit of rest time, that kind of stuff. But because of the community
Yeah.
and other people camping and other people there doing the exact same thing.
And everyone's so encouraging.
Yeah.
Mm.
Even though everyone gets a DNF, basically.
Yeah, I got my certificate of, it was like my certificate of failure or something.
Yeah.
So-
So what is the distance of the guy that won?
Jesus.
Or woman, sorry.
No, this year it was a man. Last year was a woman. The woman came second this year.
Okay.
She decided, I'm out after 34 laps.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he finished on 35 laps. So he still has to go and run a lap. Otherwise, they tie. So he ran a lap, 35 laps or yards, which was 234 Ks.
Yes. Bro, mad.
Yeah. And I mean, that was more than.
Is he like a ultra runner? Obviously, I'm assuming.
He's done a few backyards, yeah. And he's part of that. There was the SA backyard team was there because they're training for world champs,
Okay.
which was also cool to see. And how fast those guys ran each lap.
That's what I wanted to ask you is how do you work your pacing in your rest time? And
So on average, if I take my fastest and slowest, I mean, I did 15 laps, which got me to 100K. And I averaged about 40 minutes a lap.
so how did you go mentally going into it? Because I was thinking, okay, maybe 40 to 45 minutes is a good time to cruise at.
Yeah.
And then because you don't want to gun it. Okay, I have a lot of rest. Obviously, as you progress, you won't be able to gun it as much, but you don't want 5 minutes. So how was your pacing?
I thought 15 minutes was kind of the Goldilocks recovery time. I would go sit at my chair. I'd put my feet up immediately. I had my little cooler box and sweet bag and everything around me. I could just sit with my legs up. And I kept a towel over my legs just to keep the heat in a bit. Because, yeah, you know when you go for a ride and you're an hour in, or maybe you finish the ride and you just have to ride home afterwards, but you have a coffee and you get cafe legs. Now, that was my biggest concern because running is just tenfold of the cycling fatigue in your legs. So I knew if I kept it to 15 minutes rest, I was running like just over 6 minutes a K, which for me was comfortable. I was zone 2, whether it was hot or cold, whether it was a hill or not. And yeah, that was the comfortable pace. So I just wanted to maximize comfort throughout the day. So hence the legs up straight away and then that nice easy pace. Because if you ran any slower, your legs aren't actually trained to run at 7:30 or 8 minutes a K if that's not your normal.
And there's just more impact,
pace.
more gravity, everything.
And it's different impact. Yeah, it's impacting your shins a bit more because of your foot placement. You know, I land quite forward on my foot now. If I'm heel striking, that's it's just I'm not used to that. So yeah, it was just maximize comfort, and so it was a lot of carbs, lots of sweets, lots of
How was your stomach after that? 24 hours of
nonsense.
nonsense.
You know what? It wasn't 24 hours of gels.
Yeah.
At least.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Can you imagine?
So how do you feel for that?
I went on carbs per hour, but you see, this is where I should have done a bit more. Just asking my ultra running, trail running mates who've done 100 milers, I should have just asked, like, what do you specifically use? Because a lot of them said food, just like regular food, but you just don't crave it. And at one point, like, you've run for 10 hours, you need to actually have a desire to put something in your mouth. And so if you can't stomach anything, it's going to have to be simple carbs. So I know I did hit a barrier of bonking after 8 or 9 laps. And then for 4 laps, I had a 750 ml bottle of half Coke, half water that I would finish on the lap and then still down Coke when I finished the lap, just to get my sugar back up. So I think you got to, again, experience it, I guess. So my fueling, I would have eaten a few more sandwiches in the beginning, I think, while you can, and save the sweets for the end, where I just went straight into the sweets because I am a child and I like
it's more exciting.
I like milk bottles, and fun fact, they've got 90 grams of carbs in per 100 grams. So
Huh?
that's high concentrated
Yeah.
carbs right there.
Yeah, usually it's around 70 to 80.
Yeah, I know. Milk bottles, they just went all in here.
So that's why I'm putting on so much weight, because I love them.
What do you use for your long gravel rides?
So I'll just use bananas.
Okay.
I'll have a goo with caffeine in maybe for like the last hour.
Okay.
But I'll just use dates. I really like dates.
Okay, that's a good one.
Dates are really nice. The pitted dates, because sometimes you bite into a date and then there's a pip inside it. Bananas, dates, and that's pretty much it. And then I'll just have, depends on the ride, but a carb drink or 2 carb drinks.
Yeah, I haven't done enough of the dates.
Yeah,
but,
I really like I'll have one date, like that boost, a goo or something nice gives you while you're riding. I get that with dates. I love dates so nice. They're so nice.
And you just take like a little Ziploc baggie full.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll do dates, bananas. Sometimes I even take an apple. Okay. I don't do bars anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. My stomach just doesn't do well with them.
So it gets expensive. Bro.
Yeah, it does. Well,
bananas.
This game luckily gives me what I want. but yeah, no.
There's
I mean,
plug.
Bananas, you can buy 6 bananas, a bunch of bananas, however many come in there for this price of 1 little Vuma bar.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is very expensive, especially if you're doing 4, 5, 6 hour rides every weekend. Then you're spending 400 Rand just on nutrition every weekend.
Yeah. No, I'm big on bananas, especially for rides. If it's a long ride, I leave home with like 4 bananas in my back pocket. Yeah,
this past weekend I did a gravel race in Sondela. There was 110 Ks. And there I knew there was 8 stations. And I didn't want to carry anything really with me. So I just had 2 bottles of that Hammer Nutrition Heed.
Yeah.
So I had 2 bottles of that. I took a banana with me. And then every 8 station, I just quickly grabbed a banana. So I had 4 bananas and then 2 handful of sweets as well.
Bananas also, like, you don't get that taste fatigue so much from them. They go down easily.
That's the one thing with bars. If they're too chewy and you're pumping, or even especially with gravel, this was my first proper gravel race. Realizing if it's like with a mountain bike, no matter the terrain, you can pretty much chow, open up a thingy, whatever you want. But now with gravel and at the speeds we were going, I was thinking at one point, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to peel this banana. Because even riding with one hand was too difficult. So you must have to, I don't know, peeled bananas waiting for you or something. But that was something, because I was cruising with these ladies. That's one thing that's humbling about cycling and running. Actually, any endurance sport. These ladies, I could see, I was looking at their legs. I would say they were easily between like 50 and 60 something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was riding at like a 28 kilometers an hour speed. And then their little group caught me. It was like 4 or 5 of them. And then I just tried to stick with them. And I was cruising at like 32. And I was just like cruising with them. And then eventually my heart rate was like 170. And I was sick last week. So I'm like, no, I need to stop. But it was actually, it's phenomenal how these old women are so good and the endurance is incredible.
Dude, I think endurance is just that old man sport.
Yeah.
If you just keep at it, you stay consistent over the years. Like a lot of them were probably where we're at now.
Yeah.
And at our age, and they've just kept at it.
And I mean, my average speed for the race was 28 and the winner was 34.
Okay.
And these women were cruising at like 32. So these women were good.
Yeah.
Like they were good cyclists because they definitely would have been up there within the women placing. But then I was just basing it on their legs and you could see it was old lady legs. But also endurance sport definitely ages you a lot.
Yeah. And we've got a strong group of women that come to our track. We've got a small bunch, I won't call out names, that want to go for a sub-3 marathon at Cape Town.
And ages roughly for the older ladies?
No, these are all in their 30s.
Okay.
But the oldest woman that comes is probably mid-40s.
Okay, so still young technically.
Yeah. But strong.
Yeah.
Strong.
But I mean, sub-3 for anyone, regardless of the gender, regardless of the age, regardless of anything.
If you look at stats of how many people do that, it's not a big number.
Yeah.
So that'll be, I coach a few of them, so that'll be a cool sort of challenge leading into October.
Have you done a sub 3?
I've done a sub 3 at Cape Town. That was cool. So I think it's a good course to do it. It's not flat, but it's a good course.
Yeah. Altitude, all of that stuff.
And you,
as well.
Cape Town Marathon?
Bro, I've never done a full marathon. I've only done a full marathon on trail.
Yeah.
But that's completely different. Do
you have any trails that you're looking at?
No, so I'm mainly doing, I'm obsessed with gravel cycling now.
Okay.
It is so fun. So I got this coming weekend I'm going to called Run the Cape. It's a new event that they're doing. They invited me, which is pretty cool. So it's a 7K on the Friday and then a 22 on the Saturday. But it's more tailored around the event. And so it's not like a race.
Yeah.
The same way, like it was capped at 60 people, I think, to keep the exclusivity.
That's cool.
So then, but the following week I got Race to the Sun. So I've been prepping kind of for that. And then, I don't know,
I think a few weeks ago, I could be wrong, but there's a Swartberg race from Prince Albert.
Yes. So there's it's 100, I think it's 160. Yeah.
Okay. That would be one you've got to do.
Yeah. I was chatting to this other girl, I'm sure maybe you've heard of her, no, Lisa Bonnet. I don't want to say Bonnet. So she said that was probably one of the best races she's ever done in her life.
Just for the views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the elevation gain is going to be like 2,000 something, which is, okay, I guess over 160 is not terrible.
Yeah, but on gravel.
On gravel, yeah. I remember my dad he was doing a ride there once, and he did it like 1 9-kilometer segment at like 1,000 meters of climbing in. Like that's just ridiculous.
No,
that's why we do it, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's always got to be the next thing. So the following one better have 950 meters elevation, you know?
But that's what I find really difficult is managing the ego.
Yeah.
And being realistic, because I also want to see my family. I also want to have a good business. I also want to do all of these. I mean, that's something that I've really had to deal with, because obviously you did High Rocks. But when I was prepping for High Rocks for about an 8-week period, I was just doing High Rocks classes on a Saturday. Whereas previously I was doing long rides or long runs and all of that. So I would do like an hour to an hour and a half Saturday session High Rocks. 7 o'clock comes, I'm done. I'm like, what do I do with my day?
Yeah, exactly.
Normally I'm finishing at like 12, 1 o'clock. Now at 7 o'clock, I'm like, flip, I've just finished my session for the day. And you don't feel like you're doing enough.
Yeah.
I think that's one drawback with endurance, is that once you get fit and you tailored to going long, the shorter workouts, it's like...
I'm waiting for them to release like a High Rocks 2.0.
Yeah.
Where it's the extended High Rocks or something, where it's got a 2K run in between each station, or just longer stations, something like that.
They will.
Yeah. It's got to...
I saw a guy that did, I don't know how many, if it was the Ks or if it was 24 hours of doing it consecutively. I think it might have been that. Or it was, he did 160 Ks. So
yeah, I also saw something like that.
Something like that. But that's obviously they're not going to do an event like that, because they'll probably get 10 people that enter. But they definitely should, and I'm sure they will do a High Rocks endurance or something.
Yeah, and one around like a track outside would be to where you do 2.5 laps.
Yeah.
I almost think like a 400-meter track is the perfect setup for one.
Yeah.
With that space in the middle.
Well, now, I don't know if you know Deadly Dozen. So it's another thing that's kind of popped up.
Do they use a track?
That was just this past weekend at Ramsach. So they were on the track.
Okay.
So I don't know what exactly it is, but there's also the running. And there's like bear crawling and like certain different things. And obviously it doesn't. So there's 12 different exercises.
Okay. So it's just a different business, a different company.
Yeah. It's just something, I'm assuming they probably saw how good High Rocks has been doing. And then they started, I know it's an international thing, so there are others elsewhere. But now that's something else that's popped up.
Your Cape Town's High Rocks is over 2 days now.
Yeah.
Which is better for spectators too.
Yeah.
Because it was a long day.
It was a jam-packed, especially with that bridge. That was just actually silly. That was dumb.
That bridge was dumb. I mean, on paper, yes, have a bridge. But no,
those queues.
That was wild. There were so many people there.
But I think that's what's so incredible about how popular it's become. And now it's like a cult.
And there were so many spectators just watching people exercise.
Yeah.
Because that's all you're doing. You're like, I remember when I got to the ski erg, I pulled down and I looked up and my mom was like right in front of me.
That's what's nice is they can be right on top of you.
Yeah, and they can shout abuse directly at you, which is, yeah.
Well, you got abuse shouted at you from the first station.
Yeah, sheesh. I got abuse shouted at me at the wall balls from the refs. I was just so cut.
How did you find it coming from a more endurance?
Recovery time afterwards was, so I recovered during the runs. I found the runs super enjoyable.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, like you're flat dead. You're lying down for 5 minutes and then you're fine.
Yeah.
And so that's where the same thing, like on a Saturday, you're used to doing a 5-hour ride, not an hour and a half. Like,
so while you
high
do that hour and a
intensity.
half, it's really difficult. And
Yes.
maybe for half an hour afterwards, you're like, okay, cool. I've had a good workout. I'm good for the day.
Yeah.
But then 8 o'clock comes and you're like, flip, actually, I can go for a run now.
Yeah. You feel
But
bad.
then you set yourself back going forward the following day. So I think that's,
it's a bit more balanced.
but having that base of endurance, I think is, especially the running base, is definitely, I would gas it at the station and then I would start running and I'd be gassed. But then after the first lap, I'm like, speeding up within each lap and getting my heart rate back down and then being able to attack the next station.
Yeah. So our track sessions, I've told the guys doing high rocks, they're perfect prep for it, because let's say we do 800s, 800 meter intervals. So you'll do your 2 laps around the field and then I'll give them 45 to a minute rest. And it's either standing rest or it's walking rest, something like that. But during that rest period, that's essentially that rocks zone in high rocks.
Yeah.
You're training yourself just for your heart rate to come down, get ready, and prep your mind, because it all comes down to the head at the end of it. And I've told all the high rocks guys that track, that is your high intensity running. Any other running you do should just be easy. It shouldn't be, especially the high rocks guys, shouldn't be doing multiple sort of high intensity runs during a week.
Yeah, the rest is like zone 2 runs if you're going to run.
Yeah, if you can only do 3 runs a week, one short easy, one long easy, and one hard, that's pretty much what you need to do. And you're doing so much else with rowing and skiing that your fitness is going to always be improving. Yeah, tonight's my first ever like high rocks at a gym suited for it. I'm going to Golds to do it with Dev and them. There's a class there.
Is Dev doing it?
He's actually in DC now. I don't know. Yeah, him and Rob's are over there for a Golds thing. So like any other session I've just put together and done at Virgin Active.
So before this one, had you just kind of done your own thing?
Just fully my own thing, yeah. I kind of train for it like I would for a triathlon.
Yeah.
I would do a 30-minute zone 2 row and then a 30-minute zone 2 ski and practice the wall balls. And I don't know, I watched a couple of YouTube videos and squats. If you do high repetition squats, it kind of mimics the sled push, especially at my...
How did you feel doing that sled push?
Sled push was... I felt quite strong during it there because I wasn't lifting the pro weights. I was just doing age group weights. But at Virgin, they've got an Astro.
So it just slides?
No. The sled does not move on that.
Okay.
But your shoes slip. So you got your shoes slipping, the sled's not moving. So I could never put it up to 152 kgs.
So I'm sure you were worried going in. Did you think?
Worried,
yeah, because you're like, I can't do this here. How am I going to do it there?
I was watching Oaks struggle with the sled push. I thought, well, I'm tickets because my shoes are not that grippy. But it was fine.
Yeah.
In that pro race, the fastest runner there, he was struggling a bit. I think it comes down to a bit of body weight too.
It's a fine balance because there is still 8Ks that you need to run, but you don't want to sacrifice body weight and strength and lose too much muscle to be faster because there's still heavy weights that you need to push.
Yeah.
So it's a nice balance. I love the balance of, it's difficult because I definitely would say I prefer cycling and running in isolation compared to high rocks. But the endorphins that you feel from that style of training is very different to the endorphins that you feel from running and cycling.
Yeah.
So it is nice to, at times, focus on high rocks, then focus on cycling, focus on running, because obviously coming from a bodybuilding background, I was just used to the endorphins of getting a pump.
Yeah.
So having the endorphins of, high heart rate, maxing out in heart rate, and then having a body pump, and then having the run and the cool down, like all of it, it works so nicely together.
Yeah, it does. It is nice. That is a nice balance about it.
Yeah.
Are you doing the Cape Town one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But that's also one thing I saw with high rocks is because I was doing 3 or 4 high rocks tailored workouts a week. When I was doing my runs, I wasn't focusing on running. I was just making sure to get in maybe like 30 Ks a week. But my 10K time was improving, like my baseline time was improving so much without doing speed work and all of that kind of stuff because of the style of training I was doing at high rocks, which was quite interesting to see. So that was nice because I would just go and I'd go out on a run, maybe having not run for 4 days or something.
Yeah.
And then feeling so good and not thinking about it. Then I check my pace, check my heart rate. I'm like, yo, that's actually a good improvement.
We do get caught up in the numbers if you're just running.
Yeah.
You get sucked into every Strava segment and
how
average
do you
pace. And
work with clients on that?
On
the not getting sucked into the numbers.
Just reining them in.
Yeah.
I'll always give them a heads up. I'll tell them kind of my philosophy of the 80-20 rule. So that's not my philosophy. It's just that 80-20 rule of 80% of the time you should be doing zone 2, 20% of the time high intensity. And a lot of them listen, but then you also they have to go and flow. They have to experience it. And you see the problem with that is it's not a hard rule. So you can get away with it for like 2 weeks where you're doing almost 60-40, And so then you think as an individual, because I've been there,
you're different.
You think you're a rock star and you do it for a 3rd week and then boom, you're sick or injured or you just can't find the next gear at a speed session. So because you're overly fatigued, so you got to let the athletes just figure that out themselves. And they will, because it's bound to happen,
How well have you learned yourself going through the experience and realizing like when you're at burnout? And are you still, everyone kind of pushes the boundaries a little bit and then hits the burnout. But do you know yourself well enough now where you're like, okay, this week I actually do need to taper it back? Because that's, I think for everyone, the most difficult thing. When you're seeing progress, when you're seeing growth, when you're seeing times reduce, when you're seeing a lower heart rate, you're like, let's keep going, let's keep going. And then you crash.
Yeah. I think in the last 12 months, I have definitely been kinder to myself after the injury. I've definitely been kinder in that, okay, if you feel like you might have a tickle in your throat, maybe just finish the work you've got to do today rather than go out for that run as well. So the business keeping me much busier now has been more of a blessing for my own fitness because there's always something to do. So
you don't feel like you're lazy or whatever.
Yeah. I'm not just vegging, and you got to be very careful with your time. So there is that give and take with, okay, now I am too tired or too sore to go to a session, which I would only be able to give 50% effort in. And maybe tomorrow I'm sick. So I think it's just the maturity has gone, well, actually, let's send out invoices rather, so that's a positive. But it's also, I think when you tick over 30, there's you do start to just shift gear to, you've done the chasing of some medals and trophies or wanting to go pro or whatever it is, because we all have that in our young 20s, you're still figuring out who you are. You no longer have as much of that. So you just,
Yeah, your priorities are more set in stone in what you actually want. So if this is, yes, I really want to go and do that session, but if my business is going to suffer, like I'm going to have to then choose the business.
and maybe it's hard if you're like work a 9 to 5 to have the same mindset there, because it's not necessarily your business that's suffering. It's just a job. You should be able to do all your work between 9 to 5. That's what they're paying you for, not 9 to 9, you know? So if you are doing your job, then, oh, well, now I'm just going to go sit on the couch. I could get half an hour of strength in at least. And then you've already overticked a little bit, you know, you've already extended yourself too far. So at least with us, it's make or break with business. You know, it is our livelihood. So you have to do it. And there should never be a point where you're just sitting back complacent. You should always be looking to improve. And I think that high performer mindset is what got us into endurance sports, because there's always an extra step. There's always something else you can improve on.
And maybe sometimes improving on listening to your body is the thing you need to improve on.
Yeah, just growing up.
Yeah.
That's the improving.
The best piece of advice I was given, not really the best, but I'll say the best for this context, was you want to train like a professional athlete, you want to perform like a professional athlete, you got to rest like a professional athlete.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be trying to get all these numbers, get all these, you know, tick this, tick that. But the only thing you're not ticking is the recovery. Like, don't be fooled and think that the professionals aren't resting. Like, no one is superhuman. Yes, they're superhuman within the realms of reality, but they still got to rest.
Yeah, but that's why they're superhuman.
Because they're smart about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they sleep. They sleep and they're eating and they're putting their legs up.
And yes, they are afforded the ability to be able to sleep while you work or those kind of things. But then that's even more reason why we as lay people do then need to, okay, my throat's a bit sore. Tonight's session might not be the best option.
Yeah. Just be a bit realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some professional athletes can look in day-to-day life, can look really lazy and lethargic, but it's because they're putting themselves through the paces every single day for hours while training. And so that's where the energy has to go. You can't actually let energy go anywhere else. I've got a very good friend who's he's currently racing as a pro triathlete. He's my age. He's turning 33 now, and he is an electronic engineer with a digital art gallery as his side gig hustle, and he's a professional triathlete. So he's like the unicorn. You know, he's smart and he's fast and he's everything. And sometimes I think if you watch someone like him too closely, you start believing, oh, you can as well. And I have no idea how he gets it right. Maybe it's cocaine. But, I didn't say his name, so it's okay to say that.
But also, like, I'm not saying this is the case for him, but you also don't see behind the scenes of the family life, the relationship life, and all of that. There's got to be a trade-off somewhere. There's no person on earth that's achieved anything notable that hasn't had to trade off something. You cannot have it all.
You got to sacrifice something.
You have to sacrifice. And it's also just about what you're willing to sacrifice. There's been stages in my life where I was willing to sacrifice relationships. And, you know, maybe I really want to do this, so I'm actually not going to pursue a romantic relationship. That was a trade-off. I really want this business to do well. I need to spend more time on the business. Okay, the trade-off will be training a little bit less. And it's all just about, like, what do you want and what are you okay giving up? Because there's always going to be some form of trade-off that you do have to give up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've found socializing like a big trade-off that I've had to do in years gone by. It was my own decision to like not drink. But yeah, you just can't spend as much time out. Also, then you are super tired though from work. And if you are in a long-term relationship, that takes time, effort, and just, yeah, like you say, you can't do it all.
Yeah. Well, bro, I know you got a session to get to. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your time.
Sure,
And
Jesse.
let me know how tonight goes.
I will do. Yeah.
Awesome. And are you doing High Rocks in July? Have you decided?
Yeah, I think I'll do it as an individual.
Nice. Pro?
No.
Not pro?
No.
Okay.
No, let's try get
Yeah,
close
I guess
to
those
that.
weights are very heavy if you're not
dude.
just doing that.
And I feel like it's cool with the multiple divisions because now you can also set for that hour mark is like what everyone who's doing well at High Rocks, like that hour mark is what you should aim for then. Because a lot of guys internationally are going well under the hour mark already.
Yeah, which is to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That was our goal going in, was as close to an hour as possible. Yeah. And then we did like 106 or something.
Jeepers.
And I remember being like really disappointed. But we actually, I mean, we gunned it. I remember thinking our running was so slow, but we're still doing like 4.5 minutes a K. So it wasn't like it was slow.
No, it definitely wasn't slow.
But it still felt like it was such a disappointment. But I look back and be like, I gave it everything.
Yeah.
And it was exceptionally difficult. And those weights on the day just felt so much heavier.
Yeah, I'm working on technique a lot at the moment.
That's also one thing I messed up a lot of. I overworked where I could have just been more efficient and done better technique or whatever, and I would have, tired myself out a little bit less.
I think just practicing wall balls would have saved my race.
We do going up to it at least like 400 wall balls a week. Going closer to it. Like I would say that's the number one thing we do the most.
Do you practice with a much lighter ball or do you practice with race weight?
Race weight.
So the 8 kg or 6 kg?
20 pounds.
20 pounds.
Just like 8.5 or something?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's the weight.
Yeah. That's the pro weight, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we would do like in a workout, it would be 100, you're with a partner, 100 wall balls. So then we would just say, you go until you fatigue. The moment you fatigue, swap. So we'd always just like aim for 30. Aim for 30, then swap. Then obviously it depends on the workout and whatever. But I mean, there was one time where I think it was like 5 minutes of as many wall balls as you can get in.
Jeepers.
I think, it was mad. I remember my shoulders were wrecked, but it's so fun.
Yeah, it is awesome. Cool. It is fun.
Yeah.
Lekker.
And you focusing now?
What I'm focusing on right now. So I want to do High Rocks and then Cape Town Marathon. That will be a lot of...
Are you going to go for sub 3 again, PB? Or?
Yeah, I want to try and be in that bus with the group of people. But I think so that will gear the training towards mainly strength and running. That will be it for now. I'm still riding twice a week because, riding's fun, man.
Yeah. But time consuming.
Yes, it's so time consuming.
That's the problem. I love cycling the most. 100% I like cycling the most. But I can't. 1 hour ride is just pointless.
No, that is pointless. Like a 2 hour ride is like, what are we doing? Recovering?
Even that is pretty boring, and also 2 hours on a bike, because I'm so fixated on how many calories I'm burning, which is also a problem. But it's always like 2 hours on a bike. I'll be like, I can go run a 10K and I can do the same. So let me just go run.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Getting bogged down in the numbers. That's the problem.
Mental problem. Yeah. Man. We all do it.
Lekker, bro. I'm going to go work on my mental problem. Sweet guys. Thanks for watching. Cheers.